All right, here we go. Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Sketchy Lounge. And today I have with me Oscar Felix. He's a good friend of mine. He's involved with a lot of the wrestling stuff going on. He's with Desert Pro Wrestling. Currently in training, right?
Yeah, I'm currently a trainee at Desert Pro Wrestling. I am not a semi-professional or even a professional wrestler. I am a trainee representing Desert Pro Wrestling.
But eventually you plan to be.
The idea is yes.
Okay.
Yes, the idea is to eventually debut semi-professionally and eventually debut professionally and maybe make a career out of it. I mean, I never thought in my entire life that, I'd be doing this, and I've been doing it for almost a year. And it has been a hell of a journey. I mean, as you know, I'm late. We're recording this really late because I was late. But that's because I was coming from practice, and you know how the prison traffic is on the way here.
Yeah,
where it's like
pretty
from
bad.
Brawley to Calapat, so I had to deal with that a little bit. But I still hurt. I still smell a little bit. I really wish I took a shower. I'm wearing this hat of yours specifically because my hair's a mess.
That's fine. I don't even notice no smell or anything. I'm like been drinking or no.
Inebriated. Can't even tell.
No, but okay. So you plan to make it a career. You're training for it right now. Was there any like point in time before that where you were interested in wrestling and you always wanted to pursue this, like in the back of your mind, or it just turned up, the opportunity turned up and you wanted to do it?
So that's actually one of my many, many funny stories. And I'm not talking like, ha ha ha, like that's super funny, but I'm talking like I have a variety of unique stories that most people don't have. Like my one-eyed magician and his dog friend. But I think, I want to say it was either my freshman year of college,
Right.
just right out of high school. I had a chorus class. Yes, I took chorus in college. It was for my humanities. Deal with it. And there was this older gentleman. I never got his name, but he just kind of heard the sound of my voice, asked me to say something in Spanish. I don't remember for the life of me what it was. But, I said what he wanted me to say, and he pretty much straight up offered me, like, hey, have you ever thought of doing professional wrestling? And me being me, having grown up with professional wrestling for a variety of years here and there, like when I was really, really young, right, from like the age of 7 to maybe 12, I watched wrestling religiously back in the Attitude Era. And then I stopped watching wrestling for a while until like high school. And I was like, wow, I still love wrestling. And here I am in college being offered the opportunity of a lifetime to like do it. But the problem at the time was, I guess, a little bit of self-confidence, and at the same time, the fact that I was trying to get my bearings in life. I was like, well, I'm balancing a job, and I've never worked a job as extensively as this. And I'm trying to balance school, and I'm 5'6", 5'7". I'm very, very short, very, very small. I'm like 120 pounds. I can't possibly do it. So I passed up on it back then. And it's always been a running gag where I'm like, man, I really wish I took him up on his offer. I really wish that back then I just kind of gave it a shot, right? And it wasn't until really recently, this past year, where I got a random text message from one of my friends. And it was like, hey, you still interested in doing the wrestling thing? And I was like, well, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it, right? And at least at that point in time, I had already been previously working out, trying to just gain some muscle mass, be healthy. Especially because I did do the CHP stuff and a couple other things that demanded a little bit more physicality from me. And I said, yeah, sure. Why, what's up? And they gave me an address, a time, and they were just like, have fun. And I didn't really think anything of it. I was just like, okay, what do I need? Smallest of things. And I showed up to this house in a nice suburban neighborhood, and I didn't really think anything of it. I was just like, oh yeah, totally, this is sure. Knock on the door, and this man who's like 6 feet tall, like 220 pounds. If you didn't know the guy looked like a killer. Like, it was like, he's big, big imposing guy, dude. Shaved head, just like, I was like, oh shit. And he just looks at me. He eyes me up and down. He's like, you Oscar? And I was like, yeah. Yeah, come in. Shakes my hand, lets me into his house, and I'm just like, oh shit. And it's a living room. Not that much bigger than yours, actually. Maybe like 5 more feet in either direction. But it was a small living room with wrestling mats. And wrestling mats are only like about this thick.
Right.
They're not that thick. And that was day 1 of practice.
In a living room?
In a living room.
Oh shit.
And just someone.
Just you and him, no one else.
Just me and him.
So it's kind of like an audition in a way?
It was kind of like an audition. There was a third person that joined us later, but it was just like, oh, okay, hi Oscar, like, sure. And they started teaching me the basics. So the thing of it is that in wrestling, you really want to have strong fundamentals. Not just for your personal safety, but for the safety of the people around you. And if you don't have strong fundamentals, you're either going to get yourself hurt or you're going to get somebody else hurt. And it's not going to be because you hurt them and you're good. No, it's going to be because you hurt them and you are not good.
Oh, yeah. No, if you're untrained, that's no joke. I remember a while back, they had the midget wrestling in Hopeville.
Yeah.
And they left the arena open, and me and a couple friends had a couple drinks, and Steven. And me and Steven jumped on there, and then we're fucking around on the mat. Not the mat, the ring.
Yeah.
Ring, and he clothespinned me. Like, yeah, fuck it, let's clothespin me for Instagram. And he did, and like, I didn't feel it at first, but for like the next week, my back was fucking killing me. Just from that single clothespin.
Well, see, that's the thing. If you don't know what you're doing, that ring will punish you. And at least for me, it was a privilege to work on mats because I worked on mats for not weeks. I worked on mats for months. I only just recently started working a ring. And I feel it right now, but I'm going to take a nap and then I'm not. And I'll be great.
So you prefer the mats over the rings?
If you're starting out, start out on the mats because it's only going to get better after that. It only gets better after that. But yeah, so that was my just random experience. It was just like, I didn't know the guy. I didn't know anybody. I just kind of showed up and they started teaching me. And next thing you know, they're like, well, all right, you did good. We're going to train next week, same time, same place. You're more than welcome to come down. And after about 3 weeks, give or take a few, they were like, honestly, we didn't think you were going to come back. And I was like, oh, well, I mean, I'm still going to come back. But I mean, if you guys don't want me, like, you know, if I'm, you know, bad, by all means. But no, it wasn't anything like that. It's just a lot of people go in with this mentality like, oh man, I'm going to be a wrestler and I'm going to get in the ring and I'm going to be the next Ric Flair or Macho Man Randy Savage, or, you know, they have this dream of grandeur, but they don't have this idea that, oh, I need to learn how to do that. They're just like, I can do it. And then you ask them to do some of the basics and fundamentals and you're just like, okay, but you want to be the next big thing. You want to be like Dwayne The Rock Johnson or Stone Cold Steve Austin, and you can't even do the basics. That's not how this works.
Yeah, it's like with a lot of other things too. It's just, there's always people that are always trying to get into something, whether it be like maybe skateboarding, racing cars, basketball. It's like you think about everything else that you see on TV before you get into it. And
yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with having an interest and wanting to pursue that interest or being good at that interest. A good friend of mine, not to deviate too much from the subject, but a good friend of mine who's, you know him, you might remember him, Lincoln Prouting.
Oh yeah, I remember Lincoln
our,
actually
our,
said.
our old New Zealand buddy from, you know, foreign exchange student, came down here for a while.
Yeah, he's actually really into racing.
He's so really into racing, and this is the coolest thing in the world because recently he posted up on his Facebook. For those of us that still use Facebook.
I still use Facebook.
I still use Facebook. But he recently posted, hey, Not only am I professionally racing, but it's my first televised race, and this has always been my dream.
I saw that. That was pretty sick. I knew he was always into racing. I didn't know he was pursuing it like that, like to go toward a televised thing. Like, well, maybe he's not pursuing that, but maybe like the races and brackets he got into, like, eventually led him to that. But
Yeah, I mean, like,
it's
I don't
pretty
know
fucking
the
sick.
whole story, right? I just
Mhm.
know that he's done it consistently for a long time, for as long as I think he's gone back. So,
Mhm.
like, almost 10 years. So he's been racing for almost 10 years. And he's finally getting a televised race. And it's so cool. I'm super happy for you, by the way. Super proud of you.
Shout out to Lincoln.
Shout out to Lincoln, dude. Big ups. But so I did deviate a bit much on my own personal story. But so Desert Pro Wrestling, it's been around since 2013.
Mhm.
It's like I said, it's a family-run business, and we provide more or less family entertainment, as family as it can get for wrestling, right? We want to provide you with, over-the-top athleticism. We don't want to bash someone's head in with a steel chair or bust a freaking wall and then not pay for it. I'm not going to say who, what, where, when, why, how, but you know who you are.
So wait, you guys don't use chairs?
We don't use chairs. We're not savages. Concussions are a very real thing.
I thought that was common.
I mean, back in the Attitude Era, it was a
Uh-huh.
very common thing. One of the most disgusting displays of violence back for wrestling. And people are always like, oh, wrestling is fake. Wrestling is fake. Like, you take 17 plus, I don't remember how many, I'm just guessing. 17 unprotected chair shots to the head and tell me if you don't have a concussion afterwards. I will call you a bold-faced liar. I will personally bash you upside the head with a steel chair just to prove a damn point. Even though I shouldn't. Because it's not something you should do. Obviously, there's a right way to do it, and there's a wrong way to do it. But back then, I mean, we didn't know as much as we do know now about concussions and all that stuff. I don't, but I know that concussions are very serious.
Right.
More serious now than they were in the past. I'm not a doctor, but you...
Well, no, yeah, it's affecting like even football players to this point, like, with like long-term damage and everything.
Yeah, and it's
and
very
they have the
serious.
gear on. They have
Yeah, they have. That's the other thing, right? Football players have protective gear. Professional wrestlers, they don't get a helmet. I fall 20 feet onto my freaking skull. That's on me, And I mean, if you look back at old footage of like Mankind versus the Undertaker for Hell in a Cell, the dude, Mankind's like 200 plus pounds. He's a big boy,
Mm-hmm.
and he falls like more than 15 feet, easily 20 feet. I don't know the stats behind it, right? But he falls like 20 feet off the Hell in the Cell chamber. And the only thing that breaks his fall is a freaking table.
I think I've seen footage of that.
You probably
Yeah,
have. It was back in like 98.
Oh yeah.
Forgive me if I don't remember the year. I was like 6, okay? So, yeah, I don't remember. But you're falling 20 feet. Maybe a table breaks your spot, But can't fake that.
No.
You can't fake physics. You just can't. It's not going to happen. But I keep getting deviated. So Desert Pro Wrestling's been around since 2013.
Right.
And it's a family operated business, and 30-year veteran of the business is teaching people how to not die falling 20 feet. We do not have a Hell in the Cell structure, so don't expect that at any of our shows anytime soon. And like I said, family friendly. I don't think Hell in the Cell is family friendly. It's a little bit more TV 14.
Right.
What would you say?
I'd call it probably G. Rated G. I don't know.
Rated G is for everyone. So
exactly. It's for public shows, right?
Well, I mean, are you saying Hell in the Cell is rated G?
Oh wait, I thought we were talking about Desert Pro events.
Oh no, we're Desert Pro.
they have
We're
it,
trying to
yeah.
be G, if not PG. We're not
Hell
trying
in
to
the
be
Cell, yeah, that's PG-13 easily.
yeah, easily, right? Because there's blood, there's hell. The word hell, I think, is maybe a bad word. I don't know.
That'd be sick if we had an event like that in the valley, though.
That would be insane.
But you
And
need
maybe one day,
stunt crews, stunt coordinators, people that can build up the cages and shit.
yeah,
And,
maybe one day Desert Pro Wrestling will have a Hell in a Cell. And if any other company wants to provide us with a Hell in a Cell, you're more than welcome to try, but just don't bust any more walls,
so
please.
does Desert Pro have a facility here at all, or do you guys use a gym rent or anything?
So
Practice
previously,
space.
Desert Pro Wrestling was stationed out of in El Centro
Mhm.
at the Sparta Boxing Gym,
Right.
and they were there for a good while. And I wasn't there for it back then, but there was a cast of people that went through the system. Some people made it, some people didn't. Some people are still there since that time. Since then, we've moved our base of operations around a bit, mostly because we're trying to figure out shows, venues, this whole thing. If down the road we have a base of operations that is available for, I guess, public, like a public business,
Mhm.
you know what I mean, like like a building that you could just go into and just watch or whatever. Maybe in the future, but I can't say. I'm not the head booker,
Right.
not the head promoter.
I mean, so that'd be
I'm not-
kind of cool.
That would be
Yeah.
kind of cool, wouldn't it? But as a trainee, I don't know. Currently, I can say that we do have a place that we currently train at, but I don't feel comfortable disclosing the place
Okay.
at which we train at. Not for any reason other than we don't want people feeling uncomfortable while they're training.
Right.
Because we do have very, very new people. I'm not the newest person anymore.
Oh no.
A couple months ago, it was just three
How
of
many
us.
more new members do you have now over there?
So one, two.
Just a lot.
One, two. I think we have, as of today, we technically have three new. Two that have been there for a couple weeks. One that just started today, and this is what I mean by like we're kind of like a family operated business. The new person is he's like 12 years old.
No shit.
So
Crazy.
he's lucky. He might have a 15-year career by the time he gets to my age. Now, for training purposes, we do encourage that people sign up their kids when they're like 14. Sorry. The only reason we say 14 is because we want them to be a little bit more developed. You know, by the time you get to high school, puberty kicks in.
Yeah, I
you're a
can
bit-
imagine it's a lot of stress for someone that's still in development.
Oh, yeah,
also,
yeah.
to be
You-
training
you-
like
you
it's like
don't-
gymnastics kind of.
Yeah, it's like gymnastics. You don't want a little kid that like
Right.
hasn't even hit their growth spurt yet to like mess
So,
up their body and stuff.
Aside
like that
from the younger kids that are joining, what kind of a body type do you usually see, like of new recruits or new people joining? Is it usually heavy set dudes, bodybuilder types, or skinny dudes?
So, another thing about Desert Pro Wrestling is that we're easily accessible, right? And by easily accessible, I mean we're willing to take anyone if you're willing to put in the work. If you come in thinking you're hot shit and you just have a bad attitude, you're probably gonna get run out. It's just there's no room for ego there, and it's not because you're gonna ruffle feathers. It's because your ego is gonna get you hurt once you get in the ring. Because realistically speaking, that ring it weeds out the weak. It'll weed out the weak, no problem. Even the mats alone will weed out the weak. Go ahead, take a drink.
I was like, no. Okay, I'll take a drink.
Go ahead, take a drink.
Keep going. I'm listening.
Okay. So, predominantly speaking, we don't like, oh, you're too fat, or you're too tall, or you're too lanky, or you're too this or that to begin training. No, if you're genuinely, sincerely interested in becoming a professional wrestler, or at least working in the field to a capacity, you are more than welcome to come train with us. You're more than welcome. I've been trained predominantly by, I like to consider him my junior coach, because the head coach obviously has like 30 years of experience, whereas my junior coach does not. And he's very he's very receptive. He's very open, and he's very willing to work with you. For example, if I have something that I'm genuinely interested that I saw in a match, I could just ask him like, "Hey, so I saw this in a match. How does it work? How do I do it?" And we'll piece it together real quick. Like, he's super patient and he's super helpful. If anything, I've only gotten as good as I have in my short amount of time because of him. And I have nothing but, a great amount of respect. And I do thank him sincerely for all that he does for me and everybody involved. Because, he's trained me for the most part. I only just recently met the head coach. His name is Richard. Right. He's the owner of the business. And he's just as open, just as receptive. The only difference is he has 30 years of experience, and that wealth of knowledge is just a little bit more, helpful. Not saying that my junior coach isn't helpful. He's a wonderful human being, and he's a great help. But you can tell the difference. You know what I mean? Like if I guess for you, right? If a guy who's been skateboarding for 5 years gives you some tips versus, I don't know, Tony Hawk.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, yeah.
Tony Hawk's going to give you some better advice.
Tony Hawk's. It depends, too, because there's always someone, I wouldn't say prodigy, but there's always someone that, I don't know, because of their body type or their muscle structure.
They're just naturally good at it.
They're naturally better
they're
at it.
Gifted.
So sometimes, those people won't have the best advice, I like to think, sometimes. Sometimes there's people that don't get into it, and they do have to learn the hard way, and that's how they have better advice to give you. But I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, it's like better input, I guess.
Yeah.
For your training.
And so, yeah, we accept anybody, right? Obviously, you do want to be fit, and you can pursue that on your own time. If you want to be, 6 feet tall, 220 pounds, just jacked to the gills, well, then do that. We will help you in any and every way, equip you with all the information that we can give you in order for you to not only perform, but excel in the ring. Mm-hmm. And if you want to be jacked to the gills, more power to it, man.
I could imagine those kind of dudes won't be able to fly around easily, though.
You'd be surprised.
Really?
So this is this is from recently, an AEW show. And you'd also be surprised. You know what? I'm going to skip the AEW show, and I'm just going to mention this. So there's a guy who will be at the show on the 29th at the Brawley Lions Center. Mm-hmm. And this guy, and I'm not saying he's jacked to the gills, but he's easily over 200 pounds.
Okay.
My perspective, I could be wrong, but he's easily over 200 pounds. And he's known as Genio del Aire. Mm-hmm. So he's the air genius. The dude can flip for frickin' days. And he's not like cut and jacked, but he's obviously like a beefcake. He's a thick boy. He eats his tortillas, man.
I definitely gotta show up to that show and see that. But you mentioned before and a couple times already, there's gonna be an event coming up soon with Desert Pro Wrestling.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Okay, so earlier, before the camera was rolling, I did mention that we like to work with the community. And we've worked in the past with several, for example, this upcoming show on the 29th will be at the Brawley Lions Center. It will be a fundraiser for the American Post Legion, or the American Legion Post 60, right?
Okay.
In Brawley. And it's just a fundraiser. It's in cooperation with them, and we're helping each other. And just to present this show, right? And so this is one of those things where I'm like, oh my God, I'm glad I have notes. This is so unprofessional. It's really.
I can probably just cut that. I'll just cut all this.
We'll just cut it. We'll just cut it.
Yeah.
We'll fix it in post.
Yeah,
We'll fix it in post. So, like, one of the things, right? We like to emphasize working with the community, right? And like I said, we have previously worked with the American Legion Post 60 for our last show, and we're working with them for this next show, right, on the 29th. at the Brawley Lion Center. But in addition to that, we're also working with Calipatria PAL, which they have a soccer league, right, for kids with special needs, the Goleros League, I believe, and that started up with just what was her name, Paulette Ramirez from Calexico and Jackie Riddle. I'm butchering your name, and I'm so sorry, but she's from Calipatria. But they started their own little soccer leagues, and then they got together, and then they built this soccer league for special needs kids, and we're working in cooperation with them as well for this next show. So, like, we do really like working with the community. We want to work with as many members of the community to provide a quality show, such as yourself, right? Like, you are a member of the community, and I sincerely approached you regarding this interview because I was like, you know what? I'd like to promote the show, but a better way to promote the show would be to do it with a local talent. And you are a local filmmaker, local producer, you know, and I thought, you know, I did pitch it to my boss, my head trainer, and I was like, look, there's this guy, I know him, I trust him, I'd like to do a show with him just to promote the show to the best of my abilities. This is my very first interview ever, so
You're doing good.
I'm trying, man. I really am.
Wrestling and stuff like that, something I'm definitely interested in. Sketchy Lounge is usually about people who are into arts and all sorts of things like that, and that's definitely like in my alley.
I mean, yeah, it's an art. If you look at wrestling comes in many different forms. So you have lucha libre, which is the Mexican style of wrestling, and that's its own style in of itself. And there is a history, there's a culture, there's a tradition to it. At Desert Pro Wrestling, we'll teach you that. In America, there's American wrestling, as off as that sounds. But there is American wrestling. It is a very different style to lucha libre. You look at a match in the States, and you look at a match in Mexico, whether it's AAA or CMLL, or, you know, if you look at a match here in the States with Ring of Honor or AEW or even WWE, you can see that there's a difference in style.
Oh, yeah, there's a huge difference. There's a lot less flipping in American wrestling.
Yeah. And then
U.S. wrestling.
If you go overseas to New Japan, right, they practice something called strong style. Wrestling is an art form. It really is. There's many different styles. You can make your own damn style. Doesn't really matter. That's up to you. You can either practice a style, learn that style, learn its traditions, all that good stuff. Mix it with a different style. You can make your own style. I mean, there's a guy out there. We are trying to keep this PG, but there is a guy out there who's the master of dong style, and I do.
Wait a minute, is it the guy that like?
His name is Joey Ryan.
Okay, explained before I.
Yeah, I've explained this man to you before, and his penis is very powerful.
Okay, I think I've seen a clip online. He like grabs him and he, like.
Yeah, suplexes a man with his penis. That's very impressive. Very, very impressive. And I'm not saying that that's what we do at Desert Pro Wrestling because we are a family-friendly, operated business. But you get the gist.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
You can be your own individual and express that in the ring. You can follow some traditional values, whether it's lucha libre or an American style. It is its own art style by itself, definitively, without a shadow of a doubt. You know, and we at Desert Pro Wrestling, we're only trying to help whoever wants to learn to the best of our abilities and equip them to succeed in our business, you know? Just like they're helping me.
No, that sounds perfect. It sounds like anyone that's just interested in wrestling can just like show up and really tackle it. So is there anything else that you'd like to add about the event that's going to go on the 9th?
Oh, okay. So on the 29th.
On the 29th, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
29th.
It's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. On the 29th of this month. What month are we in?
September.
Oh, goodness. It's September. Okay, it's September. I'm sorry. I'm just between work, school, and life, and training. I've lost perception of time. I don't...
So on the 29th, what time is that going to be?
So, okay. Oh, oh, why did you ask me such a difficult question?
And where can people purchase tickets?
Okay, so, the show is on the 29th, the Brawley Lion Center. You can buy tickets online, right? Or you can buy them through any one of our partners.
I'll
such
go
as-
ahead and have links and everything in the description below, by the way. Anybody who's interested in going.
Yeah, and you can talk to any one of our partners, such as myself, right? I will sell you tickets. I don't mind. If you really want to go, I'll sell them to you. I'll get you a really good deal. But so the thing of it is that adults, right? Pre-sale. This is before the doors open. Pre-sale. It is very imperative if you're sincerely interested in going. Pre-sale. Adults are $15. Children starting at 10. Right? At the door, and we're not being discriminatory. It's just, pre-sale versus at the door sales. At the door, prices will go up. So adults will be $25 and children will be $20. Everything goes up by 10, I believe. I firmly believe that. I think doors open at 6. You guys are gonna crucify me when you guys find out that I forgot what time the show starts.
No, it's fine. I'm gonna keep everybody updated. I'm actually gonna update the post when I post this episode. I'm gonna have all the whole information.
It's so embarrassing because I was like, oh man, don't remember things. Like sincerely remember things that involve either the school, the people that we're working with, and the one thing I forget is the damn time. I all I know is that I have to be there earlier than anybody. Not everybody, obviously, but I have to be there super early with the rest of the trainees and the rest of the crew and build up the ring and make sure everybody gets there in time, work security or whatever the hell I need to do. But as far as the show is concerned on the 29th, we got Extreme Tiger is one of our headliners. Now, he was trained by Rey Mysterio. And I mean the Rey Mysterio. If you don't know who Rey Mysterio is and you're Hispanic, we might have a problem. You should either know who Rey Mysterio is or Eddie Guerrero is. I'm looking at you.
And what was I gonna add? Okay, so I forgot already.
No, it's okay. I'll keep feeding you.
Yeah.
Who's working the show? And if you remember, you remember. If you don't, we'll figure it out. But so Extreme Tiger, he's worked for TNA, Total Nonstop Action. They're still around, and AAA. AAA is over in Mexico. You know what I mean? He's previously been a AAA tag team champion, and he's also won their equivalent of the King of the Ring, which is the Reyes tournament, back like in 2011. But he's a phenomenally talented individual by himself alone. I mean, come on. If you're trained by Rey Mysterio, I think you know a thing or two about Lucha Libre. In addition to that, we have Fidel Bravo. The guy's wrestled. I don't know his career extensively, right? But he's wrestled for NXT. And so you know what NXT
is. Oh, hell yeah.
is.
My favorite wrestler started at NXT. Is he still? Yeah, I think he just signed over to WWE, right?
Yeah. He signed over there. Your favorite wrestler signed over there.
Shinsuke Nakamura.
Yeah, Shinsuke Nakamura. He went through the NXT. Now he's on the main roster. But Fidel Bravo has worked in NXT. Like, he's a guy who can obviously go because NXT is like the workhorse show, my opinion. And I mean, he's also a reigning defending champion. Just recently, he defended his SoCal Pro Golden State title. So, the guy can go. That guy can go, bar none. I mean, if you've been on a workhorse show and you just recently defended your championship belt, I think that you can go. You know what I mean? And then we also have some returning talent, Deluxe and Genio del Aire. So they were with us the very last show up in May, and they are phenomenal, dude. Without a shadow of a doubt. I'm so sorry.
It's alright. I'll edit it out.
It's just...
But Okay, so anything else you'd like to add? Like, I mean, it's already been 30 minutes. Crazy. But is there anything you would like to add for anyone watching this? Like, any more information about the show? Something
Yes.
super important that they
This is
cannot miss.
something that is super duper duper important that you cannot miss. You watching at home. You sitting right next to me. You and you and again you. Something that none of you can miss. 2 talents from the Desert Pro Wrestling development system that have trained with us exclusively are debuting professionally. Local talent is debuting. You shouldn't miss this show. I mean it. One of them is from Brawley, and then the other one is from El Centro.
Oh, shit.
So it's not just like, oh, 2 guys from Brawley. No. It's 2 guys from the Imperial Valley that have trained very, very diligently over the years to hone their craft, and they're finally debuting professionally. So you shouldn't miss it for that reason and that reason alone.
Damn. So you heard it here, guys. You don't want to miss this show on the 29th. I'm going to have all the information on Facebook and Instagram and on YouTube in the description, just so you can get your tickets and find out where it's going to be and an exact time. And before I end up closing the show, who's your favorite wrestler? Name your number one. You got to pick one. One, your top favorite wrestler. And
Wait, you gotta do this to me.
can be any branch, WWE, NXT.
Wait.
Fucking
Can be any time.
anytime. Yeah, anytime.
Anytime.
All time. It could be Goldberg. for all I
Dude.
care.
Nah, Goldberg.
I
My
like
favorite
Goldberg.
wrestler of all time, and I mean all time, Macho Man Randy Savage.
I was going to say, like, okay, I knew it.
I
Oh,
look,
yeah.
I love other wrestlers that are currently wrestling, but if you're asking me who my all-time favorite is, it's the Macho Man, Randy Savage. And I mean, come on, he was Rasslor on Dexter's Laboratory.
Dude, fucking Slim Jims.
Rick and Slim Jims. I mean, the guy was great. I love Macho Man Randy Savage. He was a phenomenal talent. Bar none, my favorite of all time, without a shadow of a doubt.
All right, well, thanks again for coming on to the Sketchy Lounge,
Thank you
and
so
thanks
very
for
much for
informing us on this event that's going to come up soon, and I'm super looking forward to being there. I am definitely going to be there. Got something going on in the morning. Definitely going to be back. It's obviously going to be toward the evening,
yeah.
but yeah, definitely going to be there, and I hope to see everyone else over there also.
So, if all bodes well, hopefully you will be there in a professional capacity. Maybe you can do some interviews with some wrestlers. Or
Yeah,
something.
maybe.
I'll talk to somebody and I'll figure it out. But I'll keep you posted. I sincerely appreciate this interview. I sincerely appreciate your help with everything.
No problem,
And
man.
thank you for having me on the
Fucking
show.
Always glad to help out.
Sketchy Lounge.
Everyone else in the valley people, valley talent. All right, guys. Thanks for watching another episode of the Sketchy Lounge. Welcome to season 2. Last episode was like a Comic-Con special, but I am starting season 2 now. So, see you guys.